In the heart of a bustling city stood a towering skyscraper, home to one of the most innovative tech companies in the world. Inside, engineers and developers worked tirelessly on cutting-edge projects that were shaping the future. Among them was Claire, a talented but overly confident software engineer. She had joined the company fresh out of college and quickly climbed the ranks due to her sharp mind and relentless drive. However, Claire's confidence often tipped into arrogance, and she wasn't shy about voicing her opinions, especially when it came to criticizing others. The office buzzed with excitement as rumors spread about the arrival of a new CEO. For months, there had been whispers about who would take over the reins after the previous leader stepped down. Some speculated it would be an industry veteran, while others hoped for someone young and visionary. But no one expected what happened next. The board announced that Dr. Elena Carter, a brilliant black woman known for her groundbreaking work in artificial intelligence, would lead the company. While many employees celebrated this historic appointment, some, including Claire, were skeptical. Claire sat at her desk, typing furiously on her keyboard while muttering under her breath. "Another diversity hire," she said loudly enough for nearby co-workers to hear. "Why can't they just pick someone based on merit? It's not like we need more token representation." Her words carried across the open-plan office, causing a few heads to turn uncomfortably. No one dared challenge her, though. Claire had built a reputation for being argumentative, and crossing her usually ended badly. Unbeknownst to Claire, Dr. Carter had already arrived at the office, but not in the way anyone anticipated. Determined to understand the inner workings of her new team without bias or pretense, she decided to spend her first day incognito. Dressed in simple clothes and carrying cleaning supplies, she blended seamlessly with the janitorial staff. As she moved quietly through the office, she listened intently to conversations, observing how employees interacted with each other and their surroundings. When Dr. Carter approached Claire's workstation, the young engineer didn't give her a second glance. To Claire, the figure in front of her was just another faceless member of the support staff, someone whose job was beneath her notice. Without looking up from her screen, Claire snapped, "Hey, could you clean this area later? Oh, and maybe bring me a coffee while you're at it. Make sure it's strong, I've got a lot of work to do." Dr. Carter paused, studying Claire's dismissive tone and body language. Instead of responding immediately, she continued sweeping the floor nearby, pretending to focus on her task. Claire, growing impatient, added sarcastically, "You know, efficiency is key around here. If everyone did their jobs properly, we'd all get promoted faster." Her laughter echoed awkwardly in the otherwise quiet room. Nearby, a group of interns exchanged nervous glances. They recognized the disguised CEO from photos they'd seen online, but weren't sure if they should intervene. One of them whispered urgently, "That's Dr. Carter." Another shook his head, silently urging caution. Meanwhile, Claire remained oblivious, leaning back in her chair and stretching dramatically. "Honestly," she continued, "it's ridiculous how much time people waste trying to look busy instead of actually contributing. Maybe our new CEO will finally whip this place into shape." At that moment, Dr. Carter stepped closer, her presence commanding attention despite her unassuming appearance. She adjusted her cap slightly, revealing a small name tag pinned to her shirt. It read Elena Carter. Still, Claire failed to make the connection, too caught up in her rant to pay attention. "Seriously," she scoffed. "If I were running this company, things would be different. First thing I'd do is weed out all the dead weight." Finally, Dr. Carter spoke, her voice calm yet firm. "Dead weight, you say?" Claire froze, her eyes snapping toward the source of the interruption. For the first time, she looked directly at the person standing beside her. Something about the woman's demeanor made her hesitate. There was an air of authority that didn't match the uniform she wore. "Perhaps you'd care to elaborate on your thoughts," Dr. Carter continued, her tone deceptively mild. Realization dawned slowly on Claire's face as she processed the name tag and the unmistakable resemblance to the photos she'd seen online. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, unable to form coherent words. Around them, the office fell silent, every eye fixed on the unfolding scene. The energy in the room shifted palpably. a mix of shock, amusement, and anticipation hanging thick in the air. Dr. Carter removed her cap entirely, allowing her neatly styled hair to frame her face. She straightened her posture, exuding grace and poise. "Good morning, everyone," she began, addressing the entire floor. "I'm Dr. Elena Carter, your new CEO. Thank you for welcoming me on my first day. I thought it might be interesting to observe how things operate from a different perspective." Her gaze lingered meaningfully on Claire before scanning the crowd. "It seems I've learned quite a bit already." For Claire, the moment stretched endlessly, each second heavier than the last. She felt the weight of dozens of stares boring into her, judging her, waiting to see what she would do next. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment, and her hands trembled slightly as she fumbled for anything to say. But the damage was done. In just a few short minutes, she had managed to insult the BIM. Claire's mind raced as she tried to process what was happening. The woman standing in front of her, the one she had mocked and dismissed as a janitor, was none other than Dr. Elena Carter, the new CEO. Her stomach churned with panic, but she couldn't let herself appear weak. Instead, she forced a nervous laugh, hoping to brush off the situation like it was all some kind of misunderstanding. "Oh, wow," Claire stammered, her voice trembling slightly. "This is unexpected. I mean, who would have thought you'd come in undercover? That's quite clever, actually." Dr. Carter didn't respond right away. She simply stood there, her expression calm but unreadable. Her silence only made the moment more unbearable for Claire, whose mind scrambled to find a way out of this disaster. Desperate to salvage the situation, Claire added quickly, "But seriously, it's great to meet you, Dr. Carter. I'm sure you'll bring amazing changes to the company." She plastered on a fake smile, though her eyes darted nervously around the room, searching for any sign of support from her colleagues. But no one stepped forward to help her. Instead, they watched silently, their expressions ranging from shock to amusement. The tension in the air grew thicker by the second. Finally, Dr. Carter spoke, her voice steady and measured. "Thank you for your warm welcome," she said, pausing briefly to emphasize the irony in her words. "I appreciate the honesty, or at least the lack of filter, you displayed earlier. It's rare to hear such candid opinions these days." Her tone wasn't angry or confrontational, but it carried an unmistakable edge that sent shivers down Claire's spine. Claire swallowed hard, her throat dry. She felt cornered like a deer caught in headlights. "Of course," she replied hastily, trying to sound confident despite the sweat forming on her forehead. "I always speak my mind because, well, transparency is important, right? And I'm just passionate about making sure the company succeeds." Even as the words left her mouth, she knew how hollow they sounded. Everyone in the room could see through her act, and the awkwardness of the moment only deepened. Dr. Carter tilted her head slightly, studying Claire with piercing eyes that seemed to look straight through her. "Passion is admirable," she said after a pause. "But passion must be tempered with respect, for ideas, for people, and for roles within an organization. Every single person here contributes to our success, regardless of their title or position. Do you agree?" Claire hesitated, unsure how to respond. Agreeing would feel like admitting fault, while disagreeing would make her look even worse. Her mind raced, weighing her options, but before she could say anything, Dr. Carter continued. "For instance," she said, gesturing to herself, "you assumed I was part of the cleaning staff. While there's nothing wrong with that role, it's essential to keeping this workplace running smoothly. I wonder why you felt entitled to treat me differently based on that assumption." The question hung in the air, heavy and unanswerable. Claire opened her mouth to defend herself but found no words. She wanted to explain that it was all a harmless joke, that she didn't mean any harm, but deep down she knew those excuses wouldn't hold up. Instead, she muttered lamely, I wasn't thinking." "You're absolutely right," Dr. Carter interrupted gently but firmly. "You weren't thinking, at least not about the impact of your words or actions, and that's precisely the issue." Her gaze softened slightly, though her message remained clear. Leadership isn't just about technical skills or innovative ideas. it's also about fostering a culture of respect and inclusivity. Without that foundation, even the most brilliant teams will crumble under the weight of mistrust and division. As Dr. Carter spoke, the rest of the office listened intently. Some nodded in agreement, while others exchanged knowing glances. They had witnessed Claire's behavior before. Her cutting remarks, her dismissive attitude, her tendency to belittle anyone she deemed inferior. For many, this confrontation was long overdue. Yet there was also a sense of unease, as no one knew where this would lead. Would Dr. Carter address the matter privately, or would she take immediate action? When she finished speaking, Dr. Carter turned her attention back to Claire. "Now," she said, her tone still calm but firm, "is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything else you think the team should hear?" The question felt like both an invitation and a challenge. Claire stared at her, frozen, unable to form a coherent response. Her confidence, once so unshakable, had evaporated completely. Realizing that Claire wasn't going to say anything further, Dr. Carter addressed the entire room. "Thank you all for allowing me to observe and learn today. I look forward to working alongside each of you to build a brighter future for this company. Let's remember that every role matters and every voice deserves to be heard." With that, she gave a slight nod and walked away, leaving behind a stunned audience and a mortified Claire. As Dr. Carter disappeared into the hallway, the office erupted into murmurs. Conversations broke out everywhere, with employees speculating about what would happen next. Some praised Dr. Carter's poise and professionalism, calling her handling of the situation flawless. Others expressed sympathy for Claire, acknowledging that while her behavior was inappropriate, being publicly called out like that must have been humiliating. Still, no one envied her position. Back at her desk, Claire sat motionless, her face pale and her hands gripping the edge of her chair. She replayed the scene over and over in her mind, cringing at every word she had spoken. How could she have been so careless, so arrogant? She had spent years building her reputation as a top performer, and now, in a matter of minutes, it felt like everything was slipping away. Worse still, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of her troubles. A few moments later, an HR representative approached Claire's workstation. "Ms. Thompson," he said quietly, "Dr. Carter has requested a meeting with you in conference room B. Please come with me." His tone was neutral, offering no hint of what awaited her. Claire nodded numbly, gathering her belongings and following him down the hall. Each step felt heavier than the last, her heart pounding in her chest as she prepared to face the consequences of her actions. Inside the conference room, Dr. Carter was already seated, flanked by two members of the HR team. Their expressions were serious and the atmosphere was tense. Claire took a seat across from them, her hands clasped tightly together to keep them from shaking. She braced herself for what was coming next, knowing full well that this conversation could change the course of her career, and perhaps her life, forever. Though the details of the meeting remained private, its outcome would soon ripple through the entire organization. For now, however, all Claire could do was sit there waiting for the verdict, her mind overwhelmed with regret and dread. The conference room was silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Claire sat stiffly in her chair, her hands clasped so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Across the table, Dr. Carter leaned back slightly, her posture relaxed, but commanding. Beside her, two members of the HR team exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. The weight of the moment pressed down on Claire like a physical force, making it hard to breathe. "Let's start by addressing what happened today," Dr. Carter began, her voice calm but firm. She didn't raise it or use any sharp tones, yet every word carried authority. "Your behavior earlier, mocking leadership changes, dismissing the contributions of others based on stereotypes, and treating someone you perceived as below you with disrespect, is unacceptable in this organization." Claire flinched at the directness of her words. She wanted to protest, to explain that she hadn't meant any harm, but something about Dr. Carter's steady gaze stopped her. Instead, she nodded hesitantly, her throat too dry to speak. Dr. Carter continued, her tone measured but unyielding. Diversity isn't just a buzzword here, it's a core value. We believe that different perspectives make us stronger. When we undermine that principle, whether through careless words or actions, we erode trust and create barriers that hold everyone back. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. I understand that mistakes happen. People say things they don't mean, especially when they're frustrated or stressed. But there's a difference between an honest mistake and a pattern of behavior. Based on what I've observed and what others have reported, you've shown a consistent lack of respect for your colleagues and the values this company stands for. Claire felt a lump rise in her throat. She had always prided herself on being smart, capable, and ambitious. Hearing her flaws laid out so plainly was devastating. Part of her wanted to argue to defend herself, but another part knew deep down that Dr. Carter was right. Still, she couldn't resist trying to salvage some dignity. I didn't mean to offend anyone," Claire stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was just venting. You know how stressful this job can be sometimes. And I never thought, I didn't realize—" Her voice trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Dr. Carter raised an eyebrow slightly, her expression softening just a fraction. "Intent matters, but impact matters more," she said gently. "Even if your comments weren't malicious, they still caused harm. They reinforced harmful stereotypes and made people feel undervalued. That's not something we can ignore." One of the HR representatives chimed in, his tone neutral but professional. "We've received multiple reports over the past year about similar incidents involving you, Ms. Thompson. Colleagues have expressed concerns about feeling belittled or dismissed during interactions with you. This isn't the first time these issues have come up." Claire's heart sank. She had brushed off those complaints before, assuming they were exaggerated or blown out of proportion. Now, faced with concrete evidence of her behavior, she couldn't deny it anymore. Tears welled up in her eyes, though she blinked them away quickly, unwilling to appear vulnerable in front of Dr. Carter and the HR team. "I'm sorry," she said finally, her voice cracking under the weight of emotion. "I didn't realize how much my words affected people. I'll do better, I promise." It was a genuine apology, but it came too late to undo the damage she had caused. Dr. Carter studied her carefully, her expression thoughtful. "Apologies are important, but actions speak louder than words," she said. "Change requires effort, reflection, and accountability. Unfortunately, given the severity of today's incident and the ongoing concerns about your conduct, we cannot overlook this any longer." For a moment, no one spoke. The silence stretched endlessly, filled only by the sound of Claire's ragged breathing. She already knew what was coming next, but hearing it aloud would make it real. After a brief pause, Dr. Carter delivered the verdict. "Effective immediately, your employment with this company is terminated." Her voice remained steady, leaving no room for negotiation or appeal. "You'll be escorted out of the building shortly, and HR will provide you with information regarding your final paycheck and benefits." The words hit Claire like a punch to the gut. She opened her mouth to protest, to beg for a second chance, but nothing came out. The reality of her situation crashed over her in waves. The loss of her job, the humiliation, the uncertainty of what lay ahead. For the first time in years, she felt truly powerless. As the HR representatives prepared the necessary paperwork, Dr. Carter stood up and walked around the table to face Claire directly. "This decision wasn't made lightly," she said softly. "But leadership means holding ourselves and each other to high standards. I hope you'll take this experience as an opportunity to reflect and grow." Claire nodded numbly, tears streaming down her face now. She wanted to say something, anything, to show that she understood, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she gathered her belongings silently, avoiding eye contact with anyone as she followed an HR representative out of the room. Back in the main office, news of Claire's firing spread quickly. Employees whispered among themselves, sharing details of the confrontation and speculating about what would happen next. Some felt vindicated, believing that Claire's dismissal was long overdue. Others expressed sympathy, acknowledging that While her behavior was problematic, losing her job in such a public manner must have been incredibly difficult. Meanwhile, Dr. Carter returned to her temporary office where she took a moment to collect her thoughts. Leading a company was challenging enough without having to navigate situations like this on her very first day. Yet she knew that decisive action was necessary, not just for Claire's sake, but for the entire organization. By addressing the EY issue head-on, she sent a clear message. Respect, inclusivity, and accountability were non-negotiable values. Later that afternoon, Dr. Carter held a brief meeting with senior management to discuss the incident and its implications. "Today was a learning experience for all of us," she said, addressing the group. "It reminded me of how crucial it is to foster a culture where everyone feels valued and respected. Moving forward, I want us to double down on initiatives that promote diversity and inclusion. Let's turn this challenge into an opportunity for growth." Her words resonated deeply with the team, who left the meeting inspired and motivated to support her vision. As they dispersed, conversations shifted from gossip about Claire's firing to ideas for improving workplace culture. For the first time in months, there was a renewed sense of purpose and unity within the company. Outside the office, Claire sat in her car, staring blankly at the steering wheel. Her mind raced with questions and regrets. What had she done wrong? How could she have been so blind to the impact of her actions? And most importantly, what would she do now? Losing her job wasn't just a professional setback. It was a personal wake-up call. As painful as it was, she realized that she needed to confront her flaws honestly if she ever hoped to rebuild her life and career. Though the road ahead would be difficult, Claire resolved to use this experience as a catalyst for change. Little did she know her journey toward self-awareness and redemption was only beginning. In the days that followed Claire's firing, the office buzzed with a mix of emotions. Some employees felt relief, believing that her removal was a step toward a healthier workplace culture. Others expressed concern about the precedent it set, whether one mistake, no matter how severe, warranted such drastic consequences. Conversations around water coolers and lunch tables often revolved around the incident, dissecting every detail and debating its fairness. Dr. Carter, however, remained steadfast in her decision. She knew that terminating an employee on her first day might seem extreme to some, but she also understood the importance of sending a clear message. Respect and inclusivity were not up for negotiation. During team meetings, she addressed the situation directly, emphasizing that accountability wasn't about punishment. It was about protecting the integrity of the organization and ensuring everyone felt valued. "We're building something bigger than ourselves here," Dr. Carter told her staff during an all-hands meeting. "Every interaction, every word, every action contributes to the foundation of this company. If we allow negativity or disrespect to take root, it weakens everything we've worked so hard to achieve." Her words resonated deeply with many employees, sparking a noticeable shift in behavior. People began treating each other with more kindness and professionalism, mindful of the standards set by their new leader. Anonymous feedback forms poured into HR, praising Dr. Carter's decisive leadership and expressing gratitude for creating a safer, more inclusive environment. The atmosphere in the office transformed from tense and divided to collaborative and supportive. For Claire, life outside the company proved far more challenging than she had anticipated. Unemployment hit her harder than she expected, not just financially but emotionally. Her confidence, once unshakable, now lay shattered. She spent hours scrolling through job listings, tailoring resumes, and preparing for interviews, only to face rejection after rejection. Each denial stung, especially when potential employers cited concerns about her previous termination. At first, Claire tried to downplay the reason for leaving her last job, framing it as a mutual parting due to organizational restructuring. But rumors traveled fast in the tech industry, and soon enough interviewers began asking pointed questions. "Can you tell us why you left your previous role?" they would ask, their expressions unreadable. No matter how diplomatically Claire answered, the shadow of her past actions lingered, casting doubt on her candidacy. Frustrated and humbled, Claire found herself questioning everything she thought she knew about success. Was it really worth sacrificing relationships and respect for ambition? Had she been so focused on climbing the corporate ladder that she failed to see the people around her? These thoughts haunted her as she struggled to find direction. One day, while browsing online forums for career advice, Claire stumbled upon a volunteer opportunity at a local community center. Desperate for anything to fill the void in her schedule, she signed up without much thought. The center served underprivileged youth, offering programs in STEM education, art, and mentorship. At first, Claire approached the work half-heartedly, viewing it as a temporary distraction until she landed another job. But as she interacted with the kids and volunteers, something unexpected happened. She started to care. The children at the center came from diverse backgrounds, each carrying unique stories and challenges. Many reminded Claire of herself at their age, curious, eager to learn, and full of dreams. Yet unlike her, they faced obstacles she could barely imagine: poverty, discrimination, and systemic barriers that made pursuing those dreams infinitely harder. Listening to their struggles opened her eyes to the privilege she had taken for granted. One particular moment stood out. A young girl named Maya, who dreamed of becoming an engineer, confided in Claire during a robotics workshop. "Do you think I can do it?" Maya asked hesitantly, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "People say girls like me don't belong in tech." Claire froze, struck by the familiarity of the question. How many times had she dismissed others' aspirations because they didn't fit her narrow definition of success? How often had she perpetuated the same stereotypes, now holding Maya back? For the first time, Claire saw herself in the mirror, not as the confident engineer she once was, but as someone whose words and actions had reinforced harmful biases. "You absolutely belong," Claire replied firmly, surprising even herself with the conviction in her voice. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You're smart, capable, and strong, and you have every right to chase your dreams." As she spoke, she realized she wasn't just encouraging Maya, she was reminding herself of the values she had lost along the way. Over time, Claire threw herself into volunteering, finding purpose in helping others succeed where she had failed. She mentored students, organized workshops, and even collaborated with local businesses to secure funding for the center's programs. Slowly but surely, she began rebuilding her reputation, not as a top performer in the tech world, but as someone committed to making a difference in her community. Despite her progress, Claire couldn't escape the guilt of her past actions. Late at night, when the house was quiet and her thoughts ran wild, she replayed the confrontation with Dr. Carter over and over again. What if she had handled things differently? What if she had apologized sincerely before it was too late? These questions gnawed at her, keeping her awake long into the night. Determined to make amends, Claire decided to write a letter to Dr. Carter. It wasn't easy. Putting her feelings into words felt like reliving the humiliation all over again. But she persisted, pouring her heart onto the page. In the letter, she acknowledged her mistakes, expressed genuine remorse, and thanked Dr. Carter for teaching her a lesson she desperately needed to learn. "I know my apology can't undo the harm I caused," Claire wrote, "but I want you to know that I'm working hard to become a better person, a person who respects and uplifts others instead of tearing them down. Thank you for holding me accountable, even when it was difficult. Your leadership inspired me to reflect on my actions and strive for growth." After sealing the envelope, Claire hesitated. Would Dr. Carter even read it? Would it change anything? Ultimately, she decided it didn't matter. Writing the letter wasn't about seeking forgiveness, it was about taking responsibility and committing to change. Meanwhile, inside the company, morale continued to improve under Dr. Carter's leadership. Employees embraced the renewed focus on inclusivity, participating enthusiastically in workshops, discussions, and initiatives aimed at fostering a positive workplace culture. Productivity soared as collaboration replaced competition, and creativity flourished in an environment where everyone felt empowered to contribute. Dr. Carter noticed the transformation firsthand. Walking through the office, she saw smiles instead of frowns, teamwork instead of tension. While she took pride in the progress, She also recognized that true change required ongoing effort. "This isn't the end," she reminded her team during a town hall meeting. "It's the beginning of a journey, one that requires commitment, empathy, and resilience from all of us." As weeks turned into months, Claire's efforts at the community center began to bear fruit. The kids she mentored thrived, gaining confidence and skills that prepared them for future opportunities. Seeing their growth filled her with a sense of fulfillment she had never experienced in her corporate career. Though she still hoped to return to tech someday, she realized that success wasn't defined by titles or accolades. It was about impact. Unbeknownst to Claire, her letter reached Dr. Carter shortly after she sent it. Reading it brought a mix of emotions: sadness for the pain Claire had caused, satisfaction that her actions had prompted reflection, and hope that real change was possible. Dr. Carter tucked the letter away, deciding not to respond immediately. Instead, she chose to observe quietly, waiting to see whether Claire's transformation was genuine. For now, both women moved forward on separate paths, shaped by the events of that fateful day. Claire continued her journey of self-discovery, learning to lead with humility and empathy. Dr. Carter, meanwhile, led her company with vision and grace, proving that accountability and compassion could coexist. Together, albeit indirectly, they demonstrated the power of redemption and growth, a testament to the idea that even the hardest lessons could pave the way for meaningful change. 6 months had passed since the day Claire's life took a dramatic turn. The sting of losing her job still lingered, but it was no longer the all-consuming ache it once was. Instead, she found solace in the small victories that came with her: volunteer work at the community center, each smile from a child who built their first robot, each thank you from a parent grateful for the support their family received. It was these moments that began to heal the cracks in Claire's spirit. The community center had become more than just a place to pass the time. It was a second home. Claire threw herself into organizing workshops, teaching coding classes, and mentoring students like Maya, whose dreams of becoming an engineer now burned brighter than ever. She even started collaborating with local schools and businesses to secure resources for the center, using her technical expertise to bridge gaps between technology and underserved communities. For the first time in years, Claire felt a sense of purpose that went beyond personal ambition. Meanwhile, within the tech company, Dr. Carter's leadership continued to inspire positive change. The culture shift she initiated gained momentum, as employees embraced new initiatives aimed at fostering inclusivity and collaboration. Teams worked together seamlessly, breaking down silos that had once hindered progress. Projects moved faster, ideas flowed freely, and morale soared. Anonymous surveys revealed that employees felt more valued and respected than they had in years. Dr. Carter didn't rest on her laurels, though. She understood that maintaining this momentum required constant vigilance. Every week, she held open forums where employees could voice concerns or share feedback without fear of judgment. These sessions became a cornerstone of the company's success, allowing leaders to address issues before they escalated. Dr. Carter made it clear that no one was above accountability, not even herself. One afternoon, during one of these forums, a junior developer named Marcus stood up hesitantly. His voice trembled as he spoke, but his words carried weight. "I just wanted to say thank you," he began, glancing nervously at Dr. Carter. "Before you arrived, I didn't feel like my opinions mattered. People dismissed me because I didn't come from a big-name university or have flashy credentials. But now I feel like I belong here." His admission sparked a wave of agreement throughout the room. Other employees chimed in, sharing similar stories of feeling overlooked or undervalued in the past. One woman recounted how she had been hesitant to speak up in meetings until Dr. Carter encouraged her to share her ideas. Another man described how the company's renewed focus on diversity inspired him to pursue a leadership role he never thought possible. Dr. Carter listened intently, her expression softening as she absorbed their words. When the room fell silent, she leaned forward slightly, her voice warm but resolute. "Thank you for sharing your experiences," she said. "Your voices remind me why this work is so important. We're not just building products, we're building a community." and every single person here plays a vital role in shaping its future. Her words resonated deeply, reinforcing the values she had championed since day one. Employees left the Tiur forum invigorated, ready to tackle challenges with renewed enthusiasm. The company wasn't perfect, there were still hurdles to overcome, but the foundation Dr. Carter laid gave everyone hope that lasting change was achievable. Back at the community center, Claire faced her own set of challenges. Despite her growing confidence, she couldn't shake the lingering doubt that followed her everywhere. Would anyone in the tech industry give her a second chance? Could she ever rebuild her reputation after such a public fall from grace? These questions haunted her, especially on quiet evenings when the noise of the world faded away. One evening, while tidying up after a robotics workshop, Claire overheard two volunteers discussing an upcoming career fair hosted by a major tech firm. The event aimed to connect underrepresented groups with opportunities in STEM fields. Intrigued, Claire approached them cautiously. "Do you think someone like me could attend?" she asked hesitantly. "I mean, I'm not exactly, well, I don't have the best track record." The volunteers exchanged knowing looks before one of them replied gently, "Claire, we've seen how much you've grown. You've helped so many kids here believe in themselves. You deserve to believe in yourself too. Why not take this chance?" Her heart raced at the suggestion. Attending the career fair meant stepping back into a world she had left behind. World that might not welcome her return. Yet something about the idea felt right, like a door opening just wide enough to let her through. After some deliberation, Claire decided to go for it. She updated her resume, highlighting her volunteer work and emphasizing her commitment to mentorship and inclusivity. It wasn't the polished CV she once prided herself on, but it was honest, and that mattered more. On the day of the career fair, Claire arrived early, clutching her portfolio tightly. The bustling convention hall buzzed with energy as recruiters set up booths and attendees mingled excitedly. Claire wandered aimlessly at first, unsure where to start. Then she spotted a familiar logo, a company she had admired for years. Taking a deep breath, she approached the booth and introduced herself. The recruiter listened attentively as Claire explained her journey, nodding along as she spoke about her volunteer work and the lessons she had learned. To her surprise, the recruiter seemed genuinely interested. "We're always looking for people who bring fresh perspectives to our team," he said warmly. "Your experience working with diverse communities could be incredibly valuable to us." Encouraged by the interaction, Claire spent the rest of the day engaging with other companies, sharing her story with authenticity and humility. By the end of the event, she had collected several business cards and invitations to interview, a far cry from the rejections she had faced before. For the first time in months, Claire allowed herself to feel hopeful about her future. Unbeknownst to Claire, Dr. Carter kept tabs on her progress indirectly. Letters from former employees praising the company's inclusive culture, occasionally, mentioned Claire's transformation, describing how volunteering had changed her outlook on life and work. Though Dr. Carter never reached out directly, she took pride in knowing that her actions had sparked meaningful growth, not just for Claire but for countless others. As weeks turned into months, Claire prepared for interviews, determined to prove that she was worthy of another chance. She practiced answering tough questions about her past, framing her mistakes as learning experiences rather than failures. Her answers grew more confident, her demeanor calmer. She realized that redemption wasn't about erasing her past. It was about owning it and showing how it had shaped her into a better version of herself. Finally, after months of effort, Claire received an offer from a mid-sized tech startup focused on educational software. The role wasn't glamorous, nor did it come with the prestige of her previous position, but it was a start, a chance to rebuild her career on solid ground. Tears welled up in her eyes as she accepted the offer, overwhelmed by gratitude and relief. In the same period, Dr. Carter celebrated 6 months as CEO with a company-wide meeting. Standing before her team, she reflected on the challenges they had overcome together and the milestones they had achieved. "Change isn't easy," she admitted, her voice filled with emotion. "But when we commit to doing what's right, Even when it's hard, we create opportunities for growth that benefit everyone. Her words echoed through the room, met with enthusiastic applause. As she stepped away from the podium, Dr. Carter glanced at a framed letter sitting on her desk, the one Claire had sent months earlier. Though she hadn't responded, she hoped Claire knew that her apology had been heard. More importantly, she hoped Claire understood that true redemption came not from seeking forgiveness, but from making amends through action. Both women, though worlds apart, continued on their respective journeys. Claire embraced her new role, determined to lead with empathy and integrity. Dr. Carter steered her company toward a brighter future, proving that leadership rooted in compassion could transform lives. Together, they demonstrated that even the hardest lessons could lead to profound growth, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of second chances. A year had passed since Dr. Elena Carter stepped into her role as CEO, and the company was thriving in ways no one could have predicted. Under her leadership, innovation soared, employee satisfaction reached an all-time high, and profits climbed steadily. But more importantly, the workplace culture underwent a transformation that felt almost miraculous to those who had been there before. People smiled more, collaborated openly, and celebrated each other's successes without jealousy or resentment. Dr. Carter stood at the podium during the annual company-wide meeting, her presence commanding yet warm. The room buzzed with excitement as employees gathered, eager to hear what she would say next. She began by acknowledging the challenges of the past year, the tough decisions, the uncomfortable conversations, and the moments of doubt that tested everyone's resolve. "Change is never easy," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "But when we commit to doing what's right, even when it's hard, we create opportunities for growth, not just for ourselves, but for our entire community." Her words resonated deeply with the audience, many of whom nodded in agreement. They remembered the day Claire was fired and how it sparked a chain reaction of reflection and improvement. It wasn't just about holding one person accountable. It was about setting a standard for behavior and values that everyone could aspire to. Employees shared stories of how they had grown over the past year, how they learned to listen better, support each other more, and embrace differences instead of fearing them. As Dr. Carter wrapped up her speech, she introduced a new initiative, a mentorship program designed to connect experienced employees with newcomers, particularly those from underrepresented backgrounds. "We're not just building products," she reminded everyone. "We're building futures, and every single one of you has the power to make a difference." Cheers erupted throughout the room, followed by applause that lasted several minutes. For the first time in years, people truly believed in the company's mission, and in themselves. Meanwhile, Claire settled into her new role at the educational software startup. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was fulfilling in ways she hadn't anticipated. Her days were spent developing tools that helped students learn coding and problem-solving skills, bridging the gap between technology and education. Every line of code she wrote felt like a step toward redemption, a chance to use her talents for good rather than personal gain. The transition wasn't always smooth. There were days when imposter syndrome crept in, whispering doubts about whether she deserved this second chance. But Claire pushed through, leaning on the lessons she had learned during her time at the community center. She approached her colleagues with humility, asking questions instead of assuming answers. She sought feedback regularly, determined to grow both personally and professionally. Slowly but surely, she earned their trust and her own self-respect. One afternoon, while reviewing user feedback for a new app feature, Claire noticed a comment from a teacher who used the platform in her classroom. "This tool has transformed my students' confidence," the teacher wrote. "They see themselves as creators now, not just consumers. Thank you for making something so impactful." Reading those words brought tears to Claire's eyes. For the first time in years, she felt proud, not of her achievements, but of the impact she was having on others. Word of Claire's dedication spread quickly within the startup. Her manager took notice, praising her ability to balance technical expertise with empathy. "You've got a unique perspective," he told her during a performance review. "It's clear you care about the people using our products, and that makes all the difference." Encouraged by his support, Claire began taking on leadership roles in team projects, mentoring junior developers, and advocating for accessibility features in their apps. Back at the tech company, Dr. Carter received an unexpected email late one evening. It was from Maya, the young girl Claire had mentored at the community center. Attached to the message was a photo of Maya holding a certificate for winning second place in a regional robotics competition. "Dear Dr. Carter," the email read, "I wanted to thank you for inspiring me, even though we haven't met. My mentor, Claire, told me about how you stood up for respect and fairness at your company. Because of her, I know I can be anything I want to be. Someday, I hope to work for a company like yours." Dr. Carter stared at the screen, her heart swelling with pride. She forwarded the email to HR along with a note. "This is why we do what we do. Keep pushing forward." Though she didn't mention Claire by name, the connection was undeniable. Both women had played a part in shaping Maya's future, one through decisive leadership, the other through hands-on mentorship. Together, they demonstrated the ripple effect of positive change. Months later, Claire found herself standing in front of a packed auditorium at the community center. The occasion was a showcase of student projects, and Maya's robot was among the highlights. As Claire watched the kids present their creations, she reflected on how far she had come. Gone was the arrogance that once defined her. In its place was a quiet confidence rooted in authenticity and purpose. After the event, Maya approached Claire shyly, clutching her certificate tightly. "Thank you," she said softly, "for believing in me." Claire knelt down to meet her, eye level, smiling warmly. "No, thank you," she replied. "You remind me every day why this work matters." That night, as Claire drove home, she thought about Dr. Carter. She still hadn't heard back from her after sending the apology letter, but that didn't matter anymore. What mattered was the lesson she had learned, that accountability wasn't about seeking forgiveness. It was about becoming someone worthy of trust. And in that moment, Claire realized she had finally done just that. At the same time, Dr. Carter sat in her office, gazing out at the city skyline. The company had achieved remarkable success under her leadership, but she knew the journey was far from over. Change was ongoing, requiring constant effort and vigilance. Still, she allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction, knowing that she had planted seeds of growth that would continue to flourish long after she moved on. Her phone buzzed with a notification, a LinkedIn update from Claire announcing her promotion to team lead at the startup. Dr. Carter smiled faintly, feeling a sense of pride despite the distance between them. "Good for you," she murmured to herself. Then, turning back to her desk, she returned to work, ready to tackle whatever challenges lay ahead. Both women, though worlds apart, had grown in ways neither could have imagined. Through adversity, accountability, and determination, they proved that redemption wasn't just possible, it was transformative. Their stories served as reminders that even the hardest lessons could lead to profound change, inspiring others to strive for better versions of themselves. And in doing so, they left behind legacies of hope, resilience, and renewal.